Welcome to a new podcast episode with me, your host, Juliana Joy. And today we will be talking about modern women and relationships. Can a woman have a healthy relationship? In today's world, so many women are making a choice to stay single. And we'll dive into today if that's a sign of strength, or if it's just a sign of challenging times and changing world and changing dating and the relationship scene. So let's explore that. If you look into how dating used to be, a lot of you maybe are divorced and have been in a marriage for like 20 years. So before you got married and now after the divorce when you start all over again, if you look into the dating scene and the manner people are getting together, it is so much different than before. It's not surprised that so many women experience this modern dating as low effort dating, as men who are just sending you a quick text like, can I come over Friday night? These are the things which can be extremely challenging and also frustrating for a lot of women. In the last years, the trend to not getting committed or exclusive has been massively pushed by a lot of factors in society. But the challenges that we're experiencing are to just hook up. Men like to be something without a title. Men are fine if they're talking to other women or if we are talking to other men. Somehow this kind of multiple dating is okay for so many people outside. I get that there is this massive confusion, and also so many women make a choice to just stay away from that drama, right? This is one way to cope with that. And this is when I see women commenting on social media like, hey, my dog is giving me more love, trust, and comfort than a partner. Or when somebody says, I have been always better pampered when I was single versus when I was in a relationship. And I have to say, I feel a little sad because I truly believe connection between a man and woman is something insanely beautiful. It is something very nurturing for the both partners that can fuel all other areas of your life. If you don't know me that well, my name is Juliana Joy. I'm a dating and relationship coach and a master coach teacher, specializing in energetics in relationships. So from an energetic perspective, being in a nice, healthy relationship means that you as a woman receive this very beautiful masculine energy and you don't have to produce it. This helps you start achieving so much more in your work, in your hobbies, for your passions, because the masculine energy that we produce when we're single is a feminine energy that we transfer into masculine. And it doesn't have the same density and the same power like when we are in a relationship. We have this energetic exchange where we give him our feminine, he gives us his masculine, and we use that in our life where we need masculine energy. Connect with me on Instagram and tell me what makes sense to you, what resonates, and what you think. But let's dive deeper into the topic of today's conversation. How can we, as women in this modern context, make sure we are happy? A lot of you will say, I'm pretty happy single. I know you have an amazing life because you're an amazing woman. However, I'm sure that deep down, if you're honest with yourself, if you look into your heart, there will be a part of you that desires a happy, peaceful, romantic, steady, trusting relationship. She is maybe not speaking very loud at the moment, but she's present in your heart. So if you give her a little permission to be in a space, let's talk to her now and see what can we do in the modern context to build such a relationship. The first principle, which is actually driving you. When you go through a lot of disappointments, a lot of bad experiences like a man cheating, a man hiding big secrets from you for years, or just men ghosting like it used to be with me, what happens is this little part of you that lives in your heart, she gets disappointed so much. And this is painful. Let's just be honest. There is a point in our life where we decide to protect our heart and we start taking protective measures and actions. And I will give you a few examples. Of course, deciding to stay single is the right protective reaction you can take. But I have seen so many women after disappointment, they delete their dating apps and they just go off from dating for months. I have seen women on their dating profile start putting prompts like, if you're up for a hookup, do not match with me. Which is okay, that's a boundary, right? But it comes from a place of how many times I will send dick pics and I just don't want to do that anymore. And there's so many women who would say, hey, until you prove yourself over a period of amount of dates or amount of actions, I will not be intimate with you or I will not be exclusive with you. And all of those things are protective actions. And I think there are protective measures that are not serving us. So first principle is, I want you to understand, when I am shutting down from love and romance to a point where I say things like, hey, there are no good men out there, the modern men suck, the men of my age, they're all boring, for example. Or I choose to be single. So when you do that, you're practicing a radical form of self-protection. I want you to be aware of that. That's important to understand what is driving you. And now let's dive into the second principle, which is a good protection actions and a protective actions that do not serve us. I personally think when you have protective action that is repelling, this is something that does not serve you because it repels the bad man, but it also repels a good man. I truly believe there's so many amazing men out there who are looking for love, who desire a partnership, who desire the same modern approaches, and they're trying to fit into this modern world the same way you try to fit in them. It's a matter of giving yourself and himself a chance to meet. And when you go out with things like all men are bad, all men suck, they're all cheaters and liars, all men of the dating apps are some crazy hookup perverts. When you go with this type of thinking, you're putting a barrier which is not serving you because it's stopping those amazing men of finding you. As you're listening, I want you to know, how does that feel to you? Because this may trigger different thoughts and emotions. It's important to know what's going on for you. And I'll give you a few examples. I work with women who are either in their late 30s looking to create a family, or women who are starting over after divorce. And in both cases, these are women who have had a fair amount of experience behind their back. So their motivation to protect themselves, even to protect their kids, it's super strong. I have heard things like, I will not move in with you until we're engaged. Somebody who asks you twice to move in together is a guy who obviously looking for a long-term relationship, and putting a boundary without knowing for which place does it come from, without being aware of why, the fears and all of the complexity behind that statement, and without being able to explain that to a man, is literally pushing him away. And unfortunately, after the second time she said no and didn't explain why, this guy decided to take a break. So it's that simple to be overprotective, if that makes sense to you. And there are also the good protective actions, which is also called boundaries. We want to have boundaries. We want to know what makes sense to us. And we want to explore, does that boundary come from an aligned place with me? Is it energetically aligned with what I truly desire and what I want? Or does that come from a place where I'm just afraid to be hurt again and I'm protecting myself? So this is really the conversations I want you to be having in your mind. And I had an amazing client. She is a therapist working with executive people in corporates, highly aware woman in terms of psychology, relationships, energy, spirituality. She's been journaling all her life, and she came with a challenge where she said, look, Juliana, I have a real deal breaker. I want to be married, full stop. And I'm not dating anyone if they are not ready to be married with me. I personally think this is an amazing boundary. This is an amazing awareness of what is it that I truly want, what are my values, and what I am not willing to accept, which is a no-title type of relationship for months or years. I think it's amazing. However, what I was sensing as she was speaking is that this thing comes from a wounded place. And sometimes it's difficult to explain why. I'm just intuitive and I'm picking on that stuff. But I could sense it's just not coming from an aligned place. It's not a type of healthy boundary. It's actually a wounded boundary. And it goes more into the direction of the boundary that doesn't serve us. And I was challenging her for a few weeks to see and understand that. And it's difficult to tell someone, look, wanting to be married is not healthy for you, because this is a crazy thing to say. So what happened for her is, I have a whole process inside the Breaking Closer Academy, how to uncover those really deep-sitting obstacles on your way to your happy ever after. She was going through that process. And I remember she had this insane revelation after about 10 weeks. Then she said, you know, Juliana, what I realized, because I got early divorced, I was a single mom for so many years, and I had such a hard time building a career, raising a child, providing for myself. So I just have decided that I will never ever put myself in a risk of being vulnerable, because having to provide, having to work on a career, and having to raise a child as a single mom is massively vulnerable place where you're challenged on an everyday basis. She obviously was going through such a hard time that she took a decision to never ever put herself in an unprotected place. And marriage for her means protection, which of course it is. So the logical conclusion she took was, avoid being in that pain again. I want to make sure I have this protection, which is the marriage. This is the legal signing of papers. Now, the interesting thing was, the man she was dating could feel that her desire comes with a level of tension around that. And this is this underlining energy. When we set a wounded boundary that is overprotecting and not serving us, we transmit the energy of the wound. It's not just the boundary, it's the wound itself. And men are creatures that feel as very well. No man will ever tell you that they're intuitive or they're spiritual. They will not say that, but they have antennas and they can sense more than we think. And a male brain will translate this gut feeling into a logical conclusion. They will give you a very logical explanation of their highly sensitive perceiving reality. So men would sense this underlying tension under her boundary as she was expressing that in the early dating. And straight away, in her case, would say, okay, I'm divorced, not up for another marriage. I'm happy to date, I'm happy to have a relationship, but going legally in that shit again, never ever. And of course, we have to see also the life from the lens of men. If they went through a divorce where they lost the house, they lost 80% of their money, they're not seeing their kids, and they're having an ex who is just giving them a hard time, they most likely are wounded as well. And they're thinking like, oh my God, never ever will put myself in the same situation. So what actually was happening for her, she was triggering those men with her wounds, and they would get afraid that they would be triggered as well. So they would go and be like, oh, no, thank you. And this has been going on for a while. And 10 weeks in, she had this massive realization. And the beauty of realizations is that once you know what's your issue, it's very easy to attend it. And that's why I hope as you're listening to this, you're reflecting on yourself and you're saying, okay, where this could be a topic for me. Because once you know it, you have the awareness. Shifting that is way quicker, way easier. It's almost like walking the park versus living without awareness of the root cause for you. So once she did that, so much changed. She shifted from this wounded boundary to the healthy boundary, which is, hey, I want to be married because I believe in the union. I believe in the commitment. Whole different energy. And this attracted an amazing man who also divorced, but he was open to be married again eventually. This guy started taking action, started making a long-term plan, and the whole process was like 12 weeks. So this is how fast things can change when you attend the root cause and when you realize what is keeping you stuck energetically, emotionally, shift that. And from there, it's almost like the universe starts rearranging itself to give you what you desire. But in truth, it's actually you who makes the change. It is you who creates the universe around you. And this is where we women have a massive power. When we make a choice to stay in the headspace of all men are bad, all men are cheaters, all men suck, men never put an effort. What we are doing is we are subconsciously creating this reality for ourselves because we are vibrating in that headspace, and that headspace is sending the waves outside. So what I want to share with you is a leadership perspective. I really think when we take over responsibility for our love and get out of the hole, you get out of the hole that you hide by saying, oh, all men are bad, so I'm better off single, or I prefer to have a dog and a cat and that's it. When you take over ownership of your future, you become the leader of your life. And I'll give you an example. When I was back in corporate, in one of the first leadership trainings, we had an assignment to work in groups of 4 people and then make a presentation. So when the time to present the results came, all the groups would go to the front. One person is speaking and presenting, but all 4 people are standing next to him and supporting. And I thought this was stupid. I didn't want to be the awkward person just standing there while the person in our group that we appointed was doing the presentation. So when our group came to do the presentation, all the other 3 people went to the front and I stayed on my chair. And the moderator asked, wouldn't you like to join your group? And I looked at everyone and I said, oh, they're perfectly capable of delivering an amazing presentation. They just don't need me there. And everyone laughed, and I didn't know why they laughed. So at the end of that training, the feedback I got was, you know what? You're a true leader. And I was like, why? Me? I'm the only girl in the room. Like, how could I be a true leader? And I didn't do much. I was pretty passive actually on that training. So what they explained me was, Juliana, when you go on a corporate event or bigger meeting, I want you to watch who is doing presentations and who is taking decisions. And I did that. What I noticed is we have usually a project manager who is presenting status of a project, results, or we have a sales manager presenting some data, some stuff. And we have the senior management who is listening, giving feedback and taking decisions. Rarely you will see a CEO or high-ranked manager presenting results of a group work or of a project. So looking back now with the lens of relationships to that experience which I had in leadership, the way I understand it, the way I teach my clients is when you step into leadership, you are not the person in front on the stage entertaining everyone and doing the work. You are the person who is sitting there and deciding, is that project result okay? Or do they need to go back and rework their work? So you are truly the person in command, if that makes sense. Now, let's see how can we make that apply in the context of relationships. When you let men surprise you, show you what they can, some of them will be great project managers and other will be not a good project manager. And they will fail, right? So if they put an effort, they will qualify. If they don't put an effort, they will not qualify for promotion. But when you are taking over that leadership role, you are inviting them to the stage and you're evaluating them. If you decide, I'm better off single, all men are bad, what you're doing is you're leaving the meeting room. You're not present in the meeting. When you decide to give men a chance and be surprised what they will deliver, what you're doing is you're wearing the SEO hat. You're sitting on that chair, that meeting room, and you're letting all those project managers come and present. And they will have great ideas or they may have bad ideas. And if they have bad ideas, you can show them the door, right? Do you agree with me? You have so much control when you decide to be in control of your love life. So long story short, the takeaway I want you to have from this episode is I want you to put on the SEO hat of your love life. I want you to embrace and hug the part of you that is so frustrated with men that she wants to overprotect herself. And just tell her, darling, now I'm in charge. You can sit next to me. I will take care of you that you never ever get disappointed again. Then you start inviting men and giving them a chance. Now, what I just did with you is one of the techniques I use in the Bring Him Closer Academy, working with clients. And if this is an approach that resonates, what I want you to do is DM me on Instagram, the keyword academy. And then let's have a conversation if your situation, the challenges you're experiencing and the desires you have are a match for my Bring Him Closer method. If it is, I will be more than happy to help you in a more personal container. And of course, I'm more than happy to see you in the next episode. And I want you to remember, you have the power. You just want to claim your own power and give yourself permission to be in control. Bye-bye.